Hey, what's up, guys? It's been quite a while since I uploaded anything. This is the last deck that I really put a lot of time into. I've been pretty busy. I got school now, and just being the summer, it's just a busy time all around with work and my relationships with people and stuff. So, anyway, guys, this is, like I said, the last deck I was really putting some time into. I actually ended up proxying this deck out with custom art and everything, which is cool, to varying degrees of effort in terms of that. But I made every card had future going on it, which was really brought a push for me to actually want to play the deck and build it. I have been wanting to try this deck for a long time to really give it a good shot. I've tried a couple different builds over the time since the release of Enhanced Mastery, honestly, and it always seemed kind of good on paper. In my head, that you just kind of have this like slow grindy deck. Potentially, I was just always trying to play level hop, not the most competitive. I think honestly the most competitive builds of future Gohan are going to be ones that are more camping on level 1, maybe sometimes level 2. And with that in mind, I've seen the success of enhanced decks when they get the drill package out, with Gohan wanting to be camp 1, being able to kind of reset his own anger to stand 1 longer, but also being able to function on those higher levels. Gave me a lot of reasons to want to build this deck and see the strength of it. I was running more setups, and by setups I really was just running Sand Brace as well on this deck for the longest time, and like one of every drill. I did a bunch of like in-house testing against myself for the most part, and determined that Sand Brace, while a cool card, just didn't do enough in a lot of matchups. Very reactive card, only good against aggro, really. Anger decks didn't care, ball decks didn't care. It was a cool card, and it was a cool card, but to run that card in addition to all the drills as 2-ofs would just be way too much board. This deck excels really well with the amount of board it gets. You don't want to answer every turn with this deck. You have the potential to be pretty aggressive, being that's a very mid-tempo deck. It's really one of those decks that like would really flourish if ATP was still in the game. But that's kind of mid-tempo in general. The deck has answers to kind of a little bit of everything. It's got decent board clear. It has MP control with Gohan. You have the ability to level if you want to. There's a decent amount of anti-anger. I threw in, I'll get to the deck choices a little bit when I get into it, but there's really like pretty good spread all around. It's got some really cool interactions with Enhanced Mastery and its rejuvenation power, on top of all just the same cards that have cool effects. So to get into the deck, like I said, you're mostly going to be sitting on 1. You're going to use Gohan and the Master to just chip your opponent 3 life cards a turn. You automatically have a 5-card swing on the board starting, which is really good. And with the rejuvenation, just giving you like that longevity, picking out what you want. One of the big things that the deck really wants, maybe more of, that I'm trying to figure out where I'd put and what I'd use, is deck shufflers. I've actually even considered things like Crushing Beam into the deck, but generally speaking, one of the reasons why the drills are good is because you have to search your deck to get them a lot of time, unless they're popping the pile. That does give you the deck shuffles that you want, so they are there, but deck shuffling would probably be one of the big things that this deck really is craving, which is why Broly's so good. At least one of the reasons Broly's so good. The event lineup's not huge. I wanted to run Sphere and Confro. The only problem with these cards is that they are freestyle and I can't rejuvenate them. If there was maybe some sort of good Saiyan Sphere alternative for this deck, I could see kicking out Sphere, but Sphere just being Sphere right now is just too good. I liked the idea of running more Comfort though, because I like to be generally shutting off my opponent's MP with Gohan. So I generally like to be aggressive, and against matchups where maybe I necessarily don't have to pop Gohan's power, then Comfort is really good. The big problem you're going to have when entering Copout this deck is having to choose when you want to use Gohan's power. Time is Worse tools in here. Knee Clash is in here because I needed anti-anger. I didn't want to run a lot of the Saiyan cards of lower anger that are physicals. A lot of them are AT physicals, stage damage dealing physicals. Gohan's got okay AT, like he stays in C for a long time, but stage damage for this deck just was not doing it for me. I had Severing Punch in here for the longest time, And while that card can really win you matchups if it's hitting and really slow a lot of decks down, it's just, again, one of those cards that's just super matchup dependent. It doesn't push my primary type of damage. It doesn't give me anger. Not that I really necessarily want anger for this build, but it really just doesn't do enough in a lot of the beatdown matchups. Its effect is great, but just wasn't consistent enough to help me win the game. So we get into Strength Test and Rescue. Both cards are really important in the deck, depending on the matchup. Strength Test is like really good if you get it. Especially, it's just better and better if you get it early. You just completely resource down your opponent. This card with Enhanced Mastery means that everything is getting banished. So it's going to help you grind out. Generally speaking, a lot of the decks that are going to be grinding you are going to be pushing another win condition. A lot of times anger is the main one. And there's enough anti-anger to slow your opponent down enough with Gohan, level 1 to set anger, shut off MP powers, level 2 if you need to lower their anger, that you can stall them out long enough where Strength Test can really clean out their deck for you with the Mastery. This is not a quick deck by any means. This deck is a grindy deck. Even the good matchups, they're grind, they're slow. Rescue, of course, just additional rejuvenation. 3 cards back in the deck every turn with the Mastery. So again, the biggest weakness is with these event cards is just a lot of them being freestyle. You just can't get the back of the deck outside of Rescue. So at least targeted wise, there are cards to get the back end, but we run into the board 2 Saiyan Piece. You can't search this card, so you're not as consistent as like Broly or Raditz, but this card still is just this is just a really powerful card that your opponent has to play around. If you do sack into this early against an anger deck, a lot of the anger decks do have good board hate. Specifically, like Trunks has really good board hate, so he's a real monster to play against Essential Trunks. But this card will potentially buy you a turn or two. It's just a complete tempo changer, so very good card. I run 2 of every drill except Distortion Drill. I would run this at 2, but it's so specific. It needs a fair amount of setup around it to be good. I really don't have too many effects to raise my anger. It does protect me against getting leveled, which is kind of neat if I don't want to be leveled, but this card is like really like gravy. Only time I would ever really prioritize this card is after I get Overwhelming Aura Drill out. That's the better anti-anger card. But this card is just good supplement. Like if you can get this with Overwhelming Aura Drill out, it's really hard for anger decks to level on you. Overpowering Aura Drill, this is the best drill in the deck, arguably. Oh man, I don't know. It's really hard to say which one's best. They're all just so strong, but Overpowering Aura Drill 2 lets me go and get those detached cards. It is because of the fact that it searches through my deck, potentially. Even if I pull it out of my graveyard, I can still go search my deck to shuffle it. And even if it's a fail search. So this is just a really good card, but the lower your opponent's anger on the reach is very powerful. Very good. If you've ever played against Enhanced Broly again, or Enhanced Raditz playing this card, very hard to level against them. 10 out of 10 card. Corruption Drill, well, this is the one drill that I think would probably arguably be better than Overwhelming Aura Drill. You have Enhanced Mastery, destroying cards off your deck every time you perform an attack if you want to. And Corruption Drill just makes that free. Not to mention give you a skip, which is actually really powerful with Gohan level 1. I run a fair amount of energies as well, so being able to get some stages back mid-combat, potentially it's really powerful. Protection Drill is really good. With Gohan level 1 and Protection Drill out, you're taking -2 life cards on everything. This also is another way to get some rejuvenation and longevity out of your deck, so really good card. Just, it's hard to crit you once you get this card out, so if you start taking Dragon Balls from an opponent, for example, it's going to be a lot easier to hold on to them. We have Muddrill. So Muddrill is really strong as well. This card's just, what's really silly about this card is you can just enter combat, Gohan level 1 with the Mastery, and you pop, 3 cards off their deck banished, heal 2, and potentially deal 2 more, while shutting off their power. Just super silly. You get Corruption Drill out there, every master use is free, it's just, you're getting all these rejuice back. Again, they're not targeted, but they add up. They really, really add up. It's very, very oppressive to have this out together. We also get Earth Ball 7. Excuse me, I'm just a little tired here, but... Earth Ball 7. I run Blinding Energy move at 2, and I run Earth Ball 7 at 1. And just the extra combat enders. Being it's mid-tempo deck, I think you just have to run all the combat enders nowadays. The beat decks are just so volatile. Even a lot of the anger decks are just so volatile. That being able to just stop them mid-combo is just very, very good. This deck doesn't really have any like long combat extending combos. So being able to just shut off combat, stop combat, to where you can kind of get yourself set up with the drills well enough is just really, really strong. It's a great, great option. We get into the blocks. 3 Stain Resistance, 3 Energy Evasion. These cards are just really, really good. I like Resistance because it is an attached card. I can attach it with Overwhelming or Overpowering Aura Drill in the matchups where I'm going to need to really, really control anger and have to get up to 2 to lower anger. It's really just there to give me that extra boost sometimes. There are going to be times where I do want to be on 2, or if I can necessarily see myself potentially closing out the game, jumping to 2, or if I'm in a matchup, for example, like Supreme Kai. I mean, not even necessarily Supreme Kai, but like a Goku level 1 kind of a thing. It's like, you know, your level 1 isn't doing a whole lot. Just being able to level when needed can be really, really powerful. So the anger on this is definitely appreciated. And like I said, it's one of the few cards that gives anger. Works with Distortion Drill, which isn't bad at all. So Energy Evasion has just a nice rejuvenation effect. In the matchups that you really, really want to push some extra damage. Against Energy Beat matchups, it's nice to throw them back in and doing a little extra damage back to them. So Crouch at 1. This is mostly to grab with Overpowering Aura Drill, giving you a PR of +3. I had it at 2 forever. I cut it down. If I was to make room, I wouldn't mind having another one, just because again, getting the honestly against the stage beat matchup, if you can get this out early, like getting having a PR of 6 goes a long way to keeping you alive. So I run 2 Avoidance. This card's really only in here because I don't know. Sometimes they can draw dead. Sometimes the hand filter is going to be nice. Generally speaking, I don't use it super often, but it's there. Yeah, I have had more blocks at times. I had 2 or 3 crouch and 3 avoidance, but I found that with the amount of rejuvenation, we generally can kind of hold out against beats decks well enough. And then against like a lot of the slower, grimier decks that are pushing anger or pushing board state or of some sort, whether it's Dragon Ball or drills, you know, drawing these blocks usually just kind of muddied you down. So that's why I got them down pretty low. And then I do, of course, have, you know, time and E-Clash. I can recur these in the matches where I really need them. The final bit of the deck. This is the area that probably sees the most play in terms of what gets put in, slotted in and out. I started really dedicated, specifically playing around a lot of the good sane card effects. Like I had Severing Punch in, and then running the drill cards. I've got to tweak this one here. I've kind of found that I really slacked on the board hate initially, and I kind of found like I needed to run the board hate, even with all the just the straight banish effects between Strength Test and the Mastery, and like Muddrill. You still have to be able to kind of deal with your opponent's threats, because this deck is slow enough where you can definitely outgrind other decks without the banished, but you still have to kind of slow them down, and so the board hate comes in. As far as those board hate cards go, you know, we have Saiyan Dive. This card's pretty easy to get off for, you know, its cost of banishing 2 cards out. It does give some more utility to things like Heroic Energy Sphere and Confrontation when they hit the pile. And it does life cards of damage, so this is ultimately why I run it. It just does life cards. I only have it at 2, just because I don't always want to see it. No endurance. pretty generic, but it's there. It's especially good against a lot of the stage beats decks that are drill based, like a lot of the orange adept, energetic decks. It does a great job against. So I have 2 Tandem Strike in here. I had 3. I don't like 3 of it. It does stage damage, but it has a really nice effect of giving me some stages. So again, when I go and attach things like Crouch onto me, and then I have like this card to give me some stages mid-combat, it makes this stage beat matchup a little less difficult. It only grabs from the deck when it hits, which is probably one of the biggest weaknesses of this card. But I run it really just because it's a Drill Surge. So Back Crush at 3. Now, I didn't have this card in until like my latest version of the build, and I just was tired of like losing to ball decks. I would like lose to like Ascension Trunks and like ball decks in my testing. And Back Crash is super silly. You can play this card. Yeah, you have to pitch a card out of your hands, but some of the times pitching that card out to get the crit off is more important than having that card. A lot of times if you take a Dragon Ball like Ball 5 or 3, you're just replacing the card anyway. Really strong card. What's even better is you can always rejuvenate it from your pile on your commands at will with the Mastery to get a crit. So really clutch card at stopping anger decks, ball decks, ally decks. This card is just atrocious. You know, so it's a pretty good card. I actually really like this card. I know it does stage damage. A lot of times if I see it, I'm just going to drop it in my pile. But really not a bad card at all. I really like this card quite a bit. We have Dev Blow at 3 because I just wanted some more selective pile hate in the anti-anger. Dev Blow is just such a great card. Again, the biggest weakness with a lot of my attacks here is that they're going to be stage damage, which I don't really push. And not high on the endurance on any of these cards, but Dev Blow is just stupidly good. Dev Blow will win you games if you pull it at the right time. Just cleaning out allies and drills. A lot of decks now have rejuvenate effect cards like this enhanced deck does. So just really powerful card. And then Turning Kick at 3. This card's just kind of this card is just probably one of the best cards in the deck. It has a great combo where if you knock it off your deck from damage, and you banish it for endurance, and you go pull out Protection Drill as a target when it's banished, you can immediately choose to rejuvenate the Turning Kick. Since it's being banished while the drill's out, it qualifies in the time window where you get to rejuvenate it instead of banishing it. So that combo alone, perpetuating itself, is really silly. It also is a pretty gnarly attack. It comes in for 7 life if you have a drill. Really easy to do in this deck. I have 9 drills. Not to mention, you know, if you have Muddrill out, it's a 10 life card attack. And on top of that, like, you can be doing all the extra stupid banish damage. So you can drop like stupidly high amounts of unpreventable damage. Sorry, 8 life card attack, not 10, but just really silly card. Like, this card can almost swing a quarter of a person's deck if you have your setup on the board with just Muddrill. So really dumb. Love this card. It's great. The energy attacks are probably my favorite attacks in the deck, honestly. Aerial Attack is really good. It grabs drills from everywhere. Doesn't crit on its own without a modifier, but high endurance, great card. Desperate Blast. I'm really back and forth on this card. This is one of those ones where it's like most of the time I don't actually really want it in my hand. It's got a really hefty cost to become unpreventable, but also it kind of does the same thing as Turning Kick, essentially, where at any point you can swing for some like big damage, like a sixth of the deck, if you have like Muddrill out. So it's kind of one of those finisher cards. A lot of time I don't get it for its parenthetical effect. It is very similar. It's kind of like a inverse of Turning Kick, where Turning Kick has to be taken as damage from an attack. Desperate Blast has to be destroyed off my deck by one of my effects. Ultimately, really good card. Like, good enough to still run it at 2, but I don't want it in my hand super often, so 3 is so 2 is where I keep it. 3 is just kind of too much like in my testing. We got 3 Sludge Bomb and 3 Burst. I'm just going to combine these 2 cards together. Sludge Bomb is another unpreventable attack, essentially. It's always going to do 5 life. Just straight off the deck, unless it's being modified. Really good card. The parenthetical is really good. Like I said, Dev Blow, big reason why I had Deblo in here is for the pile banish. Sludge Bomb is another card like Back Crash where you can pop it kind of whenever at your leisure out of your pile with Enhanced Mastery, but in its own right is a very, very powerful card. Just super, super clutch though. This card in Deblo will win you matchups by hitting the right targets. So Burst, of course, just being great anti-anger, does give you a little bit more recursion. I've thought about running Saiyan Tantrum, for example, just to get some more rejuve, but I just found I need to really focus on immediate effects that are techy with a lot of my attacks. Just because, again, this deck's just trying to grind. I'm trying to shut off my opponent, trying to deny their board advantage, counter with board advantage with crits and such, and just slow the game down. So this card, being an anti-anger 3, is really, really powerful. 2 Massacre is my final attack here. Sorry, not quite my final attack, but 2 Massacre. This card is stupid good. I want to run it at 3. It just doesn't have endurance. That's the only bad part about this card. Otherwise, everything else in this card's amazing. Yeah, I mean, allies aren't too much of a problem for this deck, mostly because of future Gohan. Ally Swarm decks could be a problem, but I have Massacre, I have Back Crash, can both eliminate ally threats pretty well. But this card is really, really good. Also some anti-anger if it hits. 2 Blinding Energy move, I've already mentioned it, but yeah, just the combat control, super, super powerful and effective for mid-range deck. So the deck, honestly, I like this deck a lot. It's not, like I said, it's not quick. It's slow and grimy. You just sit there in camp. Essentially, I still think like Broly's probably better. It's going to just be better because Broly can just on-demand search those cards and has a stupid amount of, just a stupid amount of healing, rejuvenation off his stack. He's got the deck shuffle. This deck really, really, really needs a deck shuffle, like a more consistent deck shuffle, and the most consistent you can get is on board. This is just another flavor of enhanced. That's all I really have to say about it, honestly. There's a lot of MPs that do really well with enhanced. I think Gohan, Raditz, Cell, Broly all do amazing with enhanced. Gotenks is good with enhanced. I'd say those 5 stand on my mind as probably the better ones to play. All have their own strengths of some sort. If you're a villain, I think ultimately, I just think there's no way you can compare with the villains because they get Bear Hug. Bear Hug is a broken card, just absolutely busted. I hate that the card exists. If Gohan could run Bear Hug, he still probably wouldn't be as good as Broly, but he would definitely be I'd honestly say he'd maybe be on tier with Raditz, who I think is maybe like the 2nd best one in enhanced. I'd probably say Raditz is better than Gotenks, but don't entirely quote me on that one. But this is a really fun deck. I really, really like it. It is my favorite character from the show, so I have to mean it. At some point, I've been really slacking on my Gohan play, but really, really powerful. You just take advantage of Gohan and enhance, inherent banish gimmick. It's really goofy, a lot of healing. If you get the drills out, it's super, super impressive. You are going to falter against any deck that can repeatedly clear your drills, with banish especially. It's really easy to get them out of the pile with all the search effects, with turning kick, aerial attack, desperate blast. So I found I really do like this deck. I found that if you can get those drills out early on, you're set. Like, you can just beat anything. I think the hardest matchup I've had is Ascension Trunks. Kneebash just completely kills this deck, which is another reason why Deblo is so good, is to get them out of the pile, so you can't use them on level 3, but Trunks Kneebash just absolutely annihilates this deck. You can definitely beat a lot of the aggressive stage beats decks and combo decks. You know, a smart use of Gohan level 1, a smart use of your combo enders, Saiyan Peace slows down a lot of these really combo-y decks, bursty decks. So if I was going to make any changes to it, like I said, if I could get a 3rd Massacre in, totally would. Maybe throw in another Crouch. I wish I could get rid of Tandem Strike. I really, really want and need that Drill Searcher. But otherwise, everything else has pretty good use. It's really interesting the hands that you can get with the deck. Sometimes they're not necessarily sometimes they're really kind of a hodgepodge of like tech, low damage, and like a board card if at your worst, but a lot of the cards actually excel being in the discard pile. You're fine with them hitting the pile. It's really easy to recycle the cards that you want, and at worst, you can always put cards back in your deck pretty easy with Crush, Drill, and Muddrill. Really, really fun deck. I enjoy it. The shell of just the board here, you could probably splash into a lot of MPs just as a baseline. You could definitely get away with running a lot of decks that just camp and use these drills. Yeah, I don't have too much more to say than that though. I've just been very busy, and I haven't really played much Z, and I was really getting into this deck, and I was gonna do a video about it sooner, but I didn't. I'm just finally up late enough where I have some time to do this. But I hope you guys are still out there playing. I know a lot of people are interested in doing some online events. Hopefully an online tournament happens. I'd love to take the day off of work and try to do it. At this point I'm doing summer school, so anything that I'm doing in my free time competes with that. So that's fun. On top of trying to have fun outside in the summer, so. But anyway guys, take it easy. Peace.